All right, so today I want to talk about the possibility of artificial intelligence infiltrating and starting to replace electrical engineering, similar to what we are seeing in software engineering. So, my background is my degree is in electrical engineering, but I kind of went towards the computer engineering side of things. So, right now I work as a firmware engineer, embedded systems firmware engineer in the hardware department of a company. So, that's kind of my background. And now, obviously, oh my goodness, AI has just been causing an apocalypse in the software and firmware world. Don't ask us if we're okay, right? We're hurting. We are hurting. But I want to figure out, okay, is it possible that this can also happen to the electrical engineering field? Let's kind of talk about this. So, the reason that I'm making this video is I heard something a little bit concerning today. Now, most when I talk to my coworkers, my electrical engineering coworkers, they are very much against it. They say, "Nope, electrical engineering will never get replaced by artificial intelligence," and they are very confident in this. Now, today I was hearing a slightly concerning uh, conversation, and that was I was at my desk doing my work, right? And I heard them saying, "Hey, look at this," right? And they were going to show us a tool. And what this tool does is when you're creating your schematic, you have all of your uh, parts on the schematic, they're wire or they're like hooked up and okay, what this does is it goes in and looks at the part numbers for each of the components which you placed on the PCB. And now what it can do is go search the internet for all of the like reference or not reference designators, the part numbers for the components, gets their data sheet, scopes through, like reads through the entire data sheet and finds out all of the important information for each of the components which are on the board. Now, then what it does is it is able to go in and check your schematics and see, okay, well, are your input voltages, are your output voltages correct? Is it hooked up correctly? And it's able to kind of analyze the schematic which you made and give you some warnings. Say, hey, the data sheet says this, but there's an inconsistency with yours. And then you can decide, okay, do I want to approve it? Do I not want to approve it? What's going on here? So that's kind of the tool, and they were excited about this. And me coming from coming from this uh I'm in the battle, right? I'm being like attacked by AI every day. Every day, Claude and Cursor and all of these companies are coming out just like one after the other trying to replace me and all of my like software coworkers, you know? Um, so when I'm hearing them talk about this, I'm like, guys, maybe this isn't a very good thing. Um, and what they have to say is, no. It is automating the boring parts. It is just the tedious, boring parts. Could be, could be, but it's just something which is okay, it's starting to get a foothold in electrical engineering, which is concerning, concerning. Hopefully everything is okay, but I wanted to kind of look at this and see, okay, within electrical engineering specifically, what do I think as someone who's had experience with AI and electrical engineering, all of this, what do I think the possibility is or is not, and the likelihood is for this to be a real threat to the electrical engineering job market? Now, people are going to say, "Oh, well, it's has a moat around it because it is physical. You have to do stuff with your hands." But I disagree with this one. I don't think that the physical aspect has a as big of a moat as people think. So the reason that I say that I don't think the physical testing, right? Because electrical engineering, you do need to go in, you need to apply the voltages and be able to take your DMM and measure things, make sure that the outputs are correct. You need to be able to put it on the oscilloscope, make sure that the waves are or waveforms are at the correct frequencies, everything is going the way that you're expecting, right? So there's a physical tactile requirement that a robot can't do, and it can't just automatically generate on a computer screen. That's true. But electrical engineering, the majority of the time spent and effort which is done by EEs is theoretical design, right? Like that's what it is normally, like hooking up the schematics, making sure that all of your components are within the specifications of the data sheets, making sure that everything is aligning the way that you want it to, and that's the majority of electrical engineering. And then obviously you're going to have to go in and debug things, and that's when you have physical uh, components to it. And yes, the robot can't do that. But if the majority of your time is in the theoretical stuff, so designing, and let's just say AI is able to do maybe a 10% increase in efficiency within the design section, and the design section is the majority of your job. Well, what this means is that, okay, let's say 70, or like I said 10% increase. Okay, well, let's just say then 7% of the job mark or the electrical engineering jobs are kind of not needed anymore, right? Because of the gain in efficiency. Now, one thing that I do want to point out is I am making an implicit assumption right here. I am assuming that the amount of work needed is going to stay stable. So a good counter argument to what I'm saying is, well, if you increase productivity, you might actually be able to get more accomplished, and that there's going to be more job growth. So that's actually a fairly valid idea. I will say we haven't seen that in the software engineering world. In fact, it seems like the amount of work has decreased. So your efficiency has increased, the amount of work has decreased, which has doubly led to even more engineers being just cut. So I'm assuming, just for argument's sake, that the amount of work is going to stay stable. So if 7% of the job market for electrical engineering is gone, well, all of those people have the exact same fungible skills that you do in troubleshooting with your hands. So even though the robot or the AI is not able to do troubleshooting, all of a sudden those exact same people who have the very similar skills to what you do, these because these skills are fungible, it's not the AI that's going to take it, but the AI is taking the portion of the work which you would have been doing. And so I don't see that as being the moat which a lot of electrical engineers think will protect them from automation and AI, because 7% uh, uh, being released into the workforce, and that is going to cause huge negative impacts into the electrical uh, job market. And now, okay, so if the physical is not a moat, what is the possibility of artificial intelligence legitimately taking the jobs of EEs? Now, I think electrical engineering is a lot more safe than software engineering. And one of the biggest reasons for this, number one, there's two reasons. Number one is electrical engineering doesn't have the same amount of training data which software engineering does. So if you think about software engineering, almost all the code ever written, little bit of an exaggeration, but Facebook's code is not on GitHub, but a lot of code is just on GitHub, open source, just tons and tons and tons and tons of training data. High quality training data is available online. This kind of thing doesn't really exist in the same quantities as software engineering. So you don't see huge open source schematics and millions and millions and millions of schematics, detailed schematics. It doesn't exist. And in addition, it seems that electrical engineering, the schematics which are created are for very niche and specific use cases. So it's going to be very difficult to be able to, number one, train the AI because you don't have enough training data. And electrical engineering, uh, what those AIs are very bad at is the edge cases, right? If it's not in the training data, it can generalize a little bit, but because electrical engineering is very much almost every single project is an edge case, it's going to be more difficult for AI to actually come in and like be able to replace that. And then obviously you have the other aspect of, okay, well, what are the outputs, right? Like if AI is training on a schematic, what is it even going to be taking in? With software, it's a lot easier that you can just take in the characters, right? And then you can do like a predictive model of, okay, given x1, x2, x3, x4, right? The probability of this token being next is going to be 82%, right? Like it's very easy to be able to predict the text. Well, what are you going to do with the schematic, right? It's a fundamentally different question. So, okay, that's the first reason why I'm a little bit more, optimistic towards the electrical engineering. Uh, you guys seem to be a little bit safer, okay? Um, and then number two is the second reason why I think electrical engineering is going to be more safe is consider the type of tasks which AI right now is doing within software engineering. So, software engineering, it's not evenly distributed what tasks are being like replaced by AI. Now, if you look, there's still a lot of senior engineers and mid-level engineers. It's the it is the entry-level engineers which are being replaced. Now, what do senior and mid-level engineers, software engineers actually do? They are much more high-level architects. So how are these different components communicating to each other? How are these different components? How is data flowing? What architectural patterns are we using? They're much more higher level. And right now, artificial intelligence is not very good at understanding the logic behind how and why these systems are the way that they are, both in software and also outside of software. So, electrical engineering is different than software engineering insofar as electrical engineering is very much architect. It is, how do you take these different components? How do you hook them together? What should they be? Now, obviously, you have like components, either the component or the physical component, or you have like design patterns. And a design pattern would be similar to like, okay, well, here's a rectifier, or here's a buck converter, or here's like, some standard plug and play component that you're able to just slap on the board. Okay. Now, in software engineering, those components would normally be written and created by the junior engineer. Here's a specific task, here, do this, right? And AI is not going to be taking the job of creating a buck converter. Like that's already been done and you just place it on there. So AI is as of now, not able to be more generalized and understand the conceptual ideas of why it's occurring. Now, that does not mean that it won't be able to get there in the future. I am concerned about this, and the reason is because when ChatGPT initially came out, before ChatGPT, I was the biggest. I remember just talking to my friends, and I so confidently said it would never be able to do X, Y, and Z, and AI is fundamentally not going to be able to generalize. And I was so confident in it. I was so confident, you know? And then when ChatGPT came out, I realized, oh my goodness, I was more wrong than I have ever been in my entire life. And I remember talking to my friend. I said, hey, you know, do you remember our conversation about 3 years ago? Yeah, you were right. I was like completely wrong. Haha, oops. And I also remember the kind of feeling when ChatGPT actually dropped. It was about maybe 2 or 3 days after ChatGPT was announced, and I was in class. It was Operating Systems 1, and Susie was in the class with me. And I remember the professor, Sung awesome teacher, um, and started off the class. He was like, "So guys, do you know about ChatGPT? Raise your hand if you know ChatGPT." And about 60% of the class raised their hands, right? And he was like, "So, how are we feeling about it?" And we all had the exact same conclusion. We were like, our career is over, isn't it? It's over before it started. This is what, a junior or senior? No, it's a senior level class. And we were just like, yeah, our career is kind of over. So the mood was very much like ever since ChatGPT came out, it's been a little bit of a onslaught, an apocalypse is what I call it. So it's and then we were saying like, okay, but it has these edge cases. Maybe it won't be able to do it. And then agentic models came out maybe 2 years later. And those things are incredible. So, as of right now, it is not able to generalize. It is not able to be very good at understanding why and how to place those components to create the larger system. It can do the components, but not understand how to place the components to be able to create a holistically viable product. That's right now, both in software and in hardware. I it's this is the literally $1 trillion question. Does it generalize? Now, obviously, I'm not going to be able to answer that because that's the question that almost everyone wants to know the answer to. So, I don't know if it generalizes. If it does generalize, uh-oh. but, buckle up. We're in for a crazy ride. It's software engineering, it's hardware engineering, it's mechanical engineering, right? Like we're all in for a pretty rough ride if it does generalize. Uh, Maybe even humanity in general is going to be in some trouble if it does generalize. Who knows? We don't know what the actual future is going to be in terms of its generalization capabilities. If it doesn't generalize, well, that's probably going to cause the AI bubble to burst. So that's also kind of like a lot of unknowns, a lot of unknowns going forward into the future. And that's something that I'm trying to, struggle with and wrestle with right now. That's kind of what I'm doing in my YouTube videos is I'm trying to understand what are the capabilities of AI. How do I as a I don't even know what I am. electrical engineer, firmware engineer, embedded systems engineer, trying to be software engineer. How do I navigate this? How do I position myself in a way that I can um, best position myself in this rapidly changing landscape of tech? Like, do I play, like, am I able to augment my productivity and become a better software engineer? Maybe. Like that, I've been experimenting with that. I've been doing Cursor and Copilot and trying to use some of those agentic models to understand them more and improve my like toolkit. Okay, so I've been doing that. I've been thinking, well, okay, if I can get to that mid level where they're not able to generalize yet, maybe I can, jump. But how do you jump from ground zero all the way up to mid level, right? That this is pretty difficult uh, jump to be making. So thinking, okay, well then is firmware safe? It might be a little bit more safe just because there's less training data. It's a little bit more niche, and there's also a lot of the just like problems that you run into with like, okay, this library or that library, and trying to say like, okay, well, why is this I2C line not working the way that you expect it to? And then you need to go in and actually go onto the oscilloscope, and like it's a little bit more safe. So I'm trying to figure this out too. I don't have all the answers. I wish I did. But, that's kind of what I'm doing with my YouTube channel is trying to figure out, okay, well, where do we go from here as engineers? How do we actually position ourselves so that we are able to thrive or even just survive, honestly? Like, how do we best position ourselves in this rapidly changing ecosystem? So, yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. I would love to hear what you have to think or have to say about this. What do you think? Do you think that AI is a threat to whichever job position you are? If you're an electrical engineer, do you think it is a threat to your position? If you are software engineering, I think I know the answer, but like actually maybe I don't. Because my bias very much is towards that junior position within software engineering. I'm very curious if you are not a junior, if you're a mid-level or a senior, what are your thoughts? I'm very curious about that. Um, and then if you're outside, if you're like mechanical or even like I don't know where you're coming from. You could watch this from anywhere, like marketing, uh, philosophy, whatever you're doing, right? Like, I want to hear your opinion. Like, what do you think AI has uh, to either offer, how it can help you, or how it might be negative towards your specific corner of this world. So, yeah, thank you for watching. My name is Timothy Lee Grant. If you want to subscribe, that'd be awesome. And yeah, I hope everyone is having a good day, and I will see you guys later.